can see us too. Hello to everybody. I'm here, Silvana, and with me is, of course, Celeste. Say hello, Celeste.
Hello, Silvana, and yes, hi from me, Celeste. So we are here.
We are gonna start our live for today, and we're gonna have some slides that we're gonna incorporate in the live. And of course, if anybody has any questions or something that they wanna just bring, you can just do it, and we'll see it on the live and try to answer as best as we can. And as I said, we're going to start with our bit of the slides. And Celeste, do you want to just comment how we decided to do the live about this specific issue, since as we know, we're more of kind of a pelvic floor program, that everything is connected. So since everything is connected, we do have to,
So essentially, the reason for requesting that we do a live on this particular topic is because in my private practice, I have clients who come in with a variety of different issues. So this is specifically on dealing with hip and low back pain. And we have the slides that you put together to show that. So although the LIFT program is sort of geared or marketed toward people to help and work with the pelvic floor and any issues of the pelvic floor, there is often a direct correlation with hip and back pain, but there are other people who may just have hip and back pain that do not have any known pelvic floor issues. And this program actually is super ideal for working with them. And essentially, there are occasions where I have clients coming in from being away, or something happened, or they did something wonky over the weekend, and they actually come in spasm often. And this is the program that historically I've actually always used with them, some variety of the program that we created for the LIFT program, to alleviate their hip and or back pain if they have both. And it is extremely effective every time. So the great thing is that somebody comes in and I have this whole huge environment of work that I can do with them in my studio. And what I go to is this program. So when a client comes in and says, my hip's been wonky, my back's been wonky, and I know they have like particular sensitivities in their spine or in their, in their discs, or they're very prone to spasm or things like that, I turn to this program and we go through an hour lesson, and they are a different person when they leave. And they're like, how is that possible? Because this isn't even something that's so hard to do. It seems like I'm just doing a bunch of very simplistic movements, so to speak, but my whole body feels different. I don't have any pain. I'm able to move. My spasm is stopped, or a variety of different things. And that's why I really wanted to do the live, because I think that its tremendous relevance for the pelvic floor is certainly there. But I think there is a relevance for people who say, I don't have any pelvic floor issues, but then they go, well, I do have hip and back pain, or I do suffer from this, that, or the other thing. And this program is able to address all of that too. And so you can talk a little bit about the relationship of these areas with the pelvic floor, and I think the slides will help that visually.
Okay, I just have a comment from one of our viewers that your sound is not very clear. So I don't know if maybe you should just try to get a bit closer to your. I know.
Is that
maybe
better?
Hopefully, I'm just gonna see if somebody comments anything about that again. But I know that the last time we did our live, we had a little of on the live itself, some of the voice was not perfect. But since I'm gonna record it anyway. If I see there's another issue with the sound, I can just upload it again. So everybody is watching. If you can hear me and Celeste, just let us know. And if you feel
I need a headset like Silvana.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get one, but
I have to work on that.
We will. Don't worry. But as you were mentioning, a lot of time, I think one of our best things that we achieve in this program is that we vary from a lot of stability exercise to mobility. Now, some people can have low back pain or even hip pain because they're stuck. They don't move very well in that part, and then they get a lot of pain. And as you mentioned, even though the program is more oriented to pelvic floor issues, actually the mobility and stability work that we do in this program will benefit a lot of other issues like hip pain, lower back pain. Now, as you mentioned,
and alignment.
And alignment. And of course, pelvic floor, that's the main thing, but that's an extra. And I can even say that I think that a lot of people that actually are super strong have that problem of being very stiff. They're strong, they're very gripping all the time, and sometimes that would show in the hip area, maybe in the groin even, and of course
it actually always wraps around. It's usually that goes around the entire upper leg, that wraps from the front of the hip all the way around into the back, and then into the back. Generally, it's that whole complex. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the people who are a bit hypermobile. They move very easily and almost are too lax in their movement. And they need the other parts of the program that help to create cohesion and connection, so that they can have more balance and more control, not because they're tight, but because they're just not even able to access or use some of the support that their body naturally has.
Yeah. So actually, I think we're gonna start with some of the slides regarding the hip issue, since here we actually have quite a lot of things that can go wrong, and sometimes they do. I put just two of the main muscles that could be an issue, as you can see in this slide. So the first one, we actually think that has a lot of time to do, and also research does collaborate that
Absolutely.
As you can see that this muscle is really in the pelvis itself. I hope you can see it good in the slide here. So it's a very internal kind of muscle that has to do with the hip itself, but actually comes within the pelvis. And of course, it is affected by the pelvic floor, and also that's why the hip itself can be a symptom of pelvic floor issues, since this muscle is really internal.
Very much so. And the other thing to note is, and you can see both sides of the muscle in the picture, and when people usually have pain or discomfort or a weakness or a syndrome, a lot of times it presents on one side of the body and not the other side. Because the whole functional movement pattern of the body on both sides is actually off. So the program we're doing, constantly alternating one leg or the other, or working both legs at the same time through the hip, through circumduction of the hip in different directions, but very simple movements. And that then enables there to develop balance between both sides of the muscle. You see it on the right and the left in the picture, because a lot of times one side might be functioning pretty well, but the other side is not. And then the hip pain radiates, or the back pain as a result of that, etc.
Yes, and of course you were discussing also postural issues, and of course if somebody has scoliosis or even mild, doesn't have to be a very severe imbalance, one of the thighs usually will be affected more than the other one, and one could be too loose and the other too tight. So that's another thing that can happen quite a lot of times. So
and often does.
Usually that's
and the thing is, what people know is that they're experiencing discomfort of some sort or some other type of syndrome, and maybe they feel out of balance, maybe they don't. And once you start doing these types of movements that we have in the program, and they're so simple, I'm like, wow, my right side does this and my left side doesn't do it at all, or wow, this does this and that is so different. And the brain then starts to organize the movement patterns to help them become more alike as well.
Yes. So again, I think you have always to find that balance between stable and mobile, and sometimes it's difficult to find the right amount of stability versus mobility that will give you power but not gripping. Okay, I see that one of our comments says that still we can't hear very well. Gwen
Okay,
says,
still hear me?
so
Hi, Gwen.
yeah, so I don't know if you can get maybe some headphones or something that you just, even the ones that connects to the phone, so maybe they can hear you better.
I don't think I have any.
Okay, so
yeah,
for everybody's,
so next time I have to get even my cordless ones to talk into.
Yeah, I
close
think
to the device, and I'm speaking and I'm projecting quite a bit to try not to sound like I'm yelling, but I'm trying to talk. So maybe because I'm on one end and the actual program maybe is, through your side.
Okay, we'll see. But anyway, we're going to have a recording of everything. So if there's another issue with the sound later on, we're going to have a recording. So don't worry about that.
Yeah, so we'll repost.
Yeah, we'll do a slight edit to that. So. Okay. Now, the other muscles, the next muscle we're going to discuss, I think everybody knows this muscle, the piriformis one again. Again, it's another muscle. It's more of a stabilizer and helps us with the pressure of the hip joint itself. And as you can see in the slide, again, it's a muscle that is really coming from the pelvis to the hip. So this usually feels more like a pain that's outside of the pelvis, not like the last one we discussed. And again, people may feel pain here, projected pain to the buttocks or even to the legs. So I know that you must work with a lot of people that have this kind of issue. So again, it's a very famous muscle.
Common.
Yeah, happens a lot. Actually, most people will feel it one-sided more, as usual. And again, sometimes it's just too tight.
Right. And what people don't realize, and I'll try to project more if I can, what people don't realize is that a lot of the stress on that particular muscle is because the pelvis is not level. So the pelvis is either twisted or tilted or both. And one side, so it may not actually be the side that is, both sides are off, but the pain often will present on one side that maybe functions pretty well sometimes, and the other side is even more out of alignment. But that pain comes usually when the pelvis is not level in its orientation between the ASIS, the anterior superior iliac spine, and the posterior superior iliac spine, the ASIS and the PSIS. So the LIFT program works very diligently to try to get those bony landmarks more in sync so that there's more balance through all of the musculature above, below, and within the pelvis.
Yes, so I think that sometimes people think that, if I have some issues in the pelvic floor, I just need to do some kegels or some, very localized. And I think that one of the things that we must understand that the pelvic floor is one part of a bigger system, and the balance must be in the whole system. So we must move above, below, inside, outside, have stable pelvis and mobile limbs, and be able to do all of that, incorporating different positions, sitting, standing, lying or aside, quadruped, whatever. We must move every part of our body as one big unit. And
just a reminder, of the program, the exercises occur in sequences that are on the back, where you lay on the back and you do a bunch. That's the longest sequence, actually.
Yeah.
Then you lay on your side. Then you go on your stomach. Then you go on your hands and knees. And then there's a standing series. So you're dealing with your body in multiple planes of functional movement to create the balance required to correct a number of these types of issues or help alleviate discomfort or pain that, you know, comes from being out of alignment.
Yes. So again, some research can back us up because we know what works in our studio. And regarding the hip, I can tell you that we have a lot of knowledge, research-wise, about this connection between the pelvic floor and the hip pain. Again, this is just two muscles that we mentioned, but of course there's more because our body, yeah.
And
now,
not to forget to mention the athletes that deal with a lot of this.
Yeah.
And as strong and able as they are in their competitive requirements and the training that they undergo, this program is foundation as the base of all of the more advanced things that they do to help keep them in check, to help keep them from developing, or if they do have those pains, to help alleviate that during their training seasons and off seasons.
Yes. So again, as I mentioned before, some issues has to do with overworking these areas, and that's why a lot of athletes need more of a release and mobility kind of training and not strengthening, because they are very strong already, but sometimes they are not balancing between right and left side, front and back, and of course very tight in a lot of those muscles. So now another issue that people have, and I'm just going to skip to our lovely slide here, would be with the pelvis pain. And so one of the main things that you can hear is sometimes people complaining about some issues with their coccyx, with pain sitting and or switching position from sitting to standing and so forth. And another muscle that has to do with that, again, has to do with the pelvic floor, of course, but not only. So that's another issue that we really need to address here again. And do you want to elaborate a bit about that?
So when you look at the picture, it's you're talking about very fine looking musculature, but you look at the angle of the muscle that runs from the front of the pubic bone into the other points of the sitting bones. And a lot of people have a hard time. They either live with their legs turned in, or they overturn out, or they can't find the space in between with their leg movement, you know, even though that's looking like it is, you know, just inside underneath the pelvis at the pelvic floor, because there's an attachment at the sitting bone. When you're moving the leg in or out, or whatever position that lives in, that influences the functional effect of that muscle.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna maybe I just go to the slide. So I don't know if you can see right now. I'm just trying to illustrate the muscle that we're talking right now. That has to go to the coccyx itself, and this is really related to the pelvic floor. And I won't say 100%, because there's not just 100% is you know, too much, but a lot of times people that complain that they have pain in that area, or when they switch position, or feel that it's very uncomfortable sitting, it actually has to do with the pelvic floor, and should be addressed as such issue. Yeah.
I just want to take another peek a little closer.
Yeah.
I was just talking. Like,
I try to find a picture that show you. Again, it's all internal muscles, so not always we can find the right picture. Now, so again, another issue would be, of course, back pain, and that's a very common issue that people have with low back pain. And I just listed two of the muscles that a lot of time has to do with that. And actually, I love both of those muscles. They're really cool. And we'll start with the very big muscle. The iliopsoas, one of my favorite, one of my, a lot of my soccer guys. Yeah, we love this muscle. Love and hate it. No, I'm just loving it. But a lot of time it can cause a lot of issues. As you can see, it goes from the lower back. So it's not a pelvic floor muscle, that's for sure. But it is going through the pelvis from the lower back to the hip. So it could
actually
be,
go ahead. The interesting part about it is that it originates at T12, so it's the last segment of the thoracic spine, and then it runs behind from the back of the body, crosses through the front of the body, and then inserts on top of the femur. So it's running from back through the inside, through the pelvis, and then on in the front. So it's very, very much in effect for all sorts of postural issues, pelvic directional issues, and I can't neglect to say the upper body movements, because everything that we do with our upper body and our arms that comes down through our lat line into our back actually has a relationship to that T12 as well in a lot of ways for functional movement anyway. So the exercises that we have in the program work very basically with the arms, very simply with the arms in the beginning of the series, and then integrates a little more with the arms when we're on the hands and knees position. But the main effect is with what's going on from that insertion, the origin all the way down through the insertion on the leg, and then how we're dealing with the movement. And most people, not all, athletes might be strong and tight in their psoas muscle, but most people are tight and weak.
Yes.
So
too much sitting will cause that. Yeah. Yes. So I just need to say that if we look at what we know that works in our studio, I just have to say that some of the research are not very they don't necessarily quote the connection between the lower back pain and the pelvic floor issues. But again, since we are connected, a lot of the time we can say that in our work, when we are in the studio with clients, we can tell that there is a connection. And again, working on mobility, strengthening, range of motion, tightest muscles need to be relaxed a bit, and weaker needs to be stronger. But I can definitely say that people that use our program say, well, I can because I had, pelvic floor issues, but I didn't say anything about my lower back pain, but wow, it just went away. So I have to say that we cannot, people are saying, listen, I had lower back pain, but I didn't say anything about it, but I don't have it anymore. So from our experience in the studio, we do see a connection. Again, I can say you can't connect that, let's say, the research doesn't back us up, but we can say that.
I don't think it doesn't deny it either. It's just
it just doesn't say there's a correlation, but they do say that if you have issues with the pelvic floor and lower back pain, when you integrate strengthening and working and exercises, both of them are going to improve. So there is some kind of connection, but we don't always understand what that is. But we know from our work with our clients in the studio, it does work.
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day and over many years. But the other thing is, and I'll use Joseph Pilates for this example, the research today, and his work was from the 1920s through the late 1960s when he was alive, because he died in the late 1960s. And he said he was 50 years ahead of his time. only today, if you're looking at that method alone and his methodology and the way he taught his methodology and the theories behind it and his own ideas behind it, the research is now coming to acknowledge many of the things that were at that time. So just because the research isn't fully, not, I won't say that supportive, but it's just not there sometimes. And we're working very practically on a daily basis with a lot of individuals who are having these particular results by using the program. So it's, you know, the beauty is it's very much like no harm done, because wherever you're at, you can generally engage in the basis of the movement patterns that we're looking at, and then tier it, because some things may be more advanced, but you get to those exercises. So the research will come.
Yes. So again, I want to say that we see people all ages, sizes, and the fact is that they do say they feel better. They feel much more mobile, less pain. So we just need to stick to our guns in this issue and say, we know it works. The people say that it does. And again, I think that the thought that you can dissect a person is just not, it's not the way the body works. The body, yeah, it's one unit, and everything has to do with everything. And the breathing, of course, that we already talked about in the previous live, has to do with it. And everything is a combination of muscles and tissues that moves with the body, and that's why it just it is what it is.
So let's go to the next slide.
Yeah. So the next one is another of my very best muscles in the body. Huge muscle, of course. Everybody talks about this muscle, and I just mentioned breathing, and this is one of the major contributors, as you know, and helps us to maintain our pressure, abdomen pressure. That's a very big thing for the pelvic floor, for lower back pain, for breathing, for every function that you can even think about.
Yeah. And the transversus abdominis, which is the muscle you're referring to, is a critical element of our quote unquote core support system.
Yeah.
And a lot of times is either over addressed or under addressed.
Yeah.
So I find that people are either only talking about, you know, engage the transversus, you do this to fire this and you do that to fire that, and, you know, blah, 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 blah. Or it's like not even on the radar at all. But the most important thing about the muscle is that it is so deep and internal.
Yeah.
And it's connected to our upper core and our lower core and everything in between, and all the way around. And the muscle fibers run horizontally. So it creates like this cylinder of support, and then it affects clearly the diaphragm and the lung and breathing capacity, but also then affects pressure into the pelvic floor very directly.
Yeah.
And to take it another layer from even the foot arches. So the foot arches all the way into the pelvic floor, through the diaphragm, and then all the way up to the, you know, to our heads and our throat area. So it is a critical muscle, but the best way to engage it is by learning movement patterns that are requiring us to utilize our pelvis alone, and then our pelvis and our limbs.
Yeah.
And to get these functional patterns so that the muscle can learn how to react. And everybody's like, well, you must put your pelvis in a neutral position in order to activate the transversus. Well, theoretically, you know, that may be the optimal way to activate it, but most people don't move like that in real life. No. And they're not able to even use it, because if they push themselves into different positions that aren't natural for them, then the muscle activations aren't really ideal. So the point of the program is to go through these subtle movement patterns through the entire pelvis, lower back, you know, upper quadrant, lower quadrant, so that then you're actually more naturally in a neutral or more neutral alignment. We never say it. We don't have to say it. It's not necessary if you're going through the process of releasing the things that are tight and connecting the things that are not connected, then things start to work. Then you start firing and moving, and then it's working more optimally.
Yes. So again, this is a big muscles. This is a muscle that everybody talks about, but again, everything has to do with everything, and everything has to work as a unit, and that's why a lot of times back pain is more complex because there's a lot of imbalances that goes, and of course, even the breathing itself could help. Just I can say for a fact that sometimes just breathe, use your lungs and use your breathing as a way of releasing pain and releasing tension. Again, as we know, body mind, they are together. If you are stressed, you're going to feel pain more. If you try to relax more, that's going to help anyway. And the transversus, again, it's a very big muscle. Again, starts from the lower back vertebrae, actually goes like, you know, like a belt, and helps a lot with the pressure of the organs, even inside our body. And when it's not functioning very well, there are going to be issues that can be in the lower back and the pelvic floor. And again, as you mentioned, some of I think that the beauty of the program is that we're doing some stabilizing exercise, and then we're going to add some arm movement, and then we're going to add some leg movement, and we're going to continue to challenge the body, and then we're going to move from laying on our back to on the side to standing or whatever, because we do want to have also the gravity influencing our body and the weight of the body shifting as we move. And this is actually a lot of time I use something very simple like a balloon, that sometimes just people don't know how to contract this muscle in a very easy way, like breathing a deep, more like intense breathing to get it to start moving.
Not just here. Yeah, so a lot of, you know, just very briefly, if you're breathing up here, you're not really activating any of those things that are required for the body to actually function, relax, balance, and breathe. So the breathing needs to come from much lower in the torso, and it needs to fill up the back. And it needs to not just be up in the throat and the collars and the shoulders. It needs to really come from inside. And when you do that and then you exhale, you start to feel how the abdominals and the diaphragm and the lungs and the hips and the pelvis all relate to one another. And we start this process on the back. And then we do it on the side, and then we do it on the stomach, and then we do it standing up, after actually on the hands and knees and then standing up. So there are a whole bunch of breathing exercises with these subtle movement patterns that help relax and also engage the things that need to be balanced, but through the breath. So there's a whole part at the beginning of every sequence that is breathing oriented. It's not long, but it's enough to at least create that
connection.
And connection.
Yes, and that's why I said that sometimes the very simple act of breathing will get us a very good result. And just by changing the position of the body, we can get some, you know, even our brain to analyze the information in a different way, challenge our body in a different way. And that's why I think the program is built so in such a flow that you can transition from one position to another position and see if you can implement from one position to the other position the same principles, like the breathing, that it's actually very, very easy. Everybody has to breathe, but how do we do it correctly?
So let me just diverge for a second and say, you know, the program, for those of you who are looking at this or maybe haven't seen, it's called the Lift Program or the Lift Pro, and it's accessible at lift, pro.com. And essentially what we offer, and it will be building, but what we have available right now is an online program for at-home use. So it doesn't matter if you're a professional or if you are just an average individual looking to do this work. And it's available online. It is $19.99. And it's paid for through PayPal, and you have access to all of the videos for 1 whole year. And we are, just as a preview, we are going to be putting more or developing more videos in July. Sylvan is actually coming from Israel to the United States, and we'll be working to get more material done that way. So we will be putting some sequences together for particular situations of pelvic floor issue, but also flow sequences that may be different time frames. So maybe you don't have time to go through the entire program, but you can, you know, you say, I have 20 minutes today. So we will have a 20-minute program that you can kind of deal with some of the fundamentals and the essentials and the things that need to happen. And we'll have one that's maybe 45 minutes or 40 minutes or half an hour, something like that. But theliftpro.com, you have access to it for a whole year from the day of your purchase. And anything additional we put on just goes on.
Yeah,
so
if you paid for that year, whatever we put, you just get access to it, and you can use it until your year is up. And of course, then you can just renew your membership and continue, because we're going to have extra stuff all the time. We're developing everything, and it's really very easy to use. I can tell you that I have clients from Russia that use it, and no problems. And you're in the States, and I'm now in Israel. So it's very easy. You can access whatever you want from your computer, from your iPhone, from your iPad, whatever you want to. You can just log in. You just need to have a password that you get when you register. You just pay through PayPal, and that's it. You have your membership. You can use it whenever you want. And again, when I get to the States in July, we're going to film a lot more, so you can have more information and more videos.
Yep. Building the program.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there are any questions from anybody who is watching about the effects of the program on hip and back pain or pelvic floor itself or anything like that, because, you know, we can take this opportunity to answer any questions. If you can hear me speak.
Yeah, I see that. Again, there's some voice issues with your, but again, I'm going to just edit, and I'm going to upload it again to the page and also to our YouTube channel. So if somebody didn't hear Celeste very well, we're going to have a new version on it. So don't worry about it. And then you can watch it again with the slides and everything. So don't worry.
So let's go back to our slides. We have a couple more, right?
I think we went to, I think that, this was the back.
Fundamentals. Those are like the fundamental ones. I mean, there are so many things involved with hip and back pain, as well as pelvic floor issues. But to highlight a few of the specific muscles that are big culprits, you know, big influences of, you know, of that. So people will say, oh, you have back pain, you need to strengthen your core. What the heck does that mean, right? Your core actually is your entire torso and all the way to the bottom of your hip. So it's not just your abdominals. It's not just the six pack that people think. It's a whole system that needs to be addressed. And by doing, you know, a lot of the elements of the program, you will be able to naturally start using those muscles more functionally that will help with those issues, and take it from there.
Okay. Yeah. So I think we kind of cover everything. That would be it for us today. Again, I'm going to repost it, so don't worry about it, and the sound will be better. So thank you for everybody that's been watching us. Thank you, Celeste. Nice to have us just talk about this issue a bit. Okay.
Oh, there's so much to talk about. And I always say I love questions. So Q&A is something I love, even if it's not done real time. So if anybody wants to send a bunch of questions to us, we can use them for topics for future lives. We can answer through email or, you know, other messaging or something like that. But please feel free to ask us questions, because the only way we can improve what we're doing or help educate people about what we're doing or make people understand better what we're doing is to receive those questions. And that way we can be on it.
Perfect. Well, thank you for everybody that's been watching, and good night to you all here from Israel, but it's noon.
And good afternoon from the United States.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.